Ridgeline is back. We're really excited to sponsor the 2024 Motorama show here in Toronto this year. Now you might be asking yourself, why Motorama? We understand what it's like to be in this space. We know how important it is to have quality products because we want them too. We were really excited to see all the people, all the cars, and all the shops involved in the shop tour series this year. And you know what? We wanted to get in on the fun ourselves. But before we do that, we want to tell you about what you can expect from Ridgeline at Motorama this year.
This SS with the 396 was no joke. The 1970 Camaro, the timeless look, this is what makes these cars so popular, is the split bumper. It just feels like it's oozing with slime all the way back. Raptors! Ah! And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Next up is our epic Motorama social media contest. So during that weekend, if you like, subscribe, comment, or share any of our content, you're entered in to win one of 5 garage packages. What that includes is a Vintage Car Club jacket, Vintage Car Club sign, some other great things, including one of these Ridgeline shop stools for your own space. One thing that we're gonna be doing is launching Ridgeline's brand new Vintage Car Club. We're gonna be at the show handing out some swag and trying to see how many people wanna join our crew. So how do you fit into that club? Well, if you look at this giant, rusty, greasy hunk of metal that looks like it was pulled out of the bottom of the ocean, you think that needs to be saved, you belong with us. Or maybe you're into the late 80s import scene, 50s cruisers, hot rods, rat rods, muscle cars, anybody who is part of the scene, we want them to join our crew. So looking forward to kicking that off at the show this year. Last but not least, we have the Ridgeline's Finest Award, where we're gonna pick out a ride that embodies quality, performance, and commitment, just like Ralph Porco's
1973 Barracuda behind us, owned by Ralph. Now Ralph, congratulations.
Thank you. We pulled the motor out. We did a few things to it. We changed the frost plugs and so on and so forth. And then we cleaned it all up, painted it, and here we are.
But speaking of cars, why don't we just cut to what we're here for? This is a 1928 Willys Whippet sedan. A lot of people know Willys for their Jeeps, of course, in World War II, that heroic classic vehicle. It was actually the 3rd highest selling vehicle in the late 20s. And in 1928, the Whippet sold 315,000 vehicles, which is crazy actually to think about. The nice thing about this one is it's small. It's not this great big monster. It's actually one of the smallest cars that you could get in North America at the time. And that's because they were inspired by the smaller, more nimble, more agile, more fuel efficient vehicles over in Europe. This particular car is a great start for what we're trying to do because first of all, you can see a bunch of sheet metal. It's not full of Bondo, it's not full of damage, it's not full of the things that you want to get away with when starting a project car. The bones are there. And then the wood is in actually really good shape. And it's only just missing a couple things like an interior, which actually isn't that bad. But we are gonna be going back and forth from start to finish because this car had sat in a barn for 30 years and then put in a sea can and put in the barn and never touched until 2 years ago when we pulled it out. The paint looks like it was done in a tornado. A lot of stuff is sort of dried up. There's some rust coming through in certain seams. If we look at the engine is in great shape. It's actually rebuilt, but it's been sitting. Now, before anybody trolls us online saying, this isn't the right motor for the car, it's not. You're right. It actually comes from a 1929 or 1930s Willys Whippet. But here's the nice thing about the motor that's in it. It's got 30% more horsepower than the previous year. So a 1928 would have had a whole 30 horsepower. This has 40. Wow. 10 more horsepower. You might think that that's not that much, but in a car like this, which is pretty light, pretty small, that's gonna make an incredible difference. They're known for their full force lubrication systems. The 29 to 30 motor has better cooling, electronic ignition, improved carburetor. There's a lot of components that actually make this a whole lot better. The crazy thing is these things got a 30 mile per gallon average on fuel economy and can hit comfortably 55 miles an hour. The problem is, we just want to make it that much better because we want to bring it to Motorama. So we're going to go from front to back. We're going to get the body off the frame. We're going to make sure all the mechanicals are good. And the problem is when you have something that sits that long, these tires are brand new, but they're also cracked because they've sat. The spokes had been redone. They might not go straight down the road anymore. But you know, there's a lot to be said about restoring a car to factory, preserving the history of where we came from in transportation, especially this era, in the brass era and afterwards, before the 30s. They gravitate towards these cars with the wood spoked wheels and the wood interiors, and they're just basic and they make a great sound. This one does have an electronic ignition, but you know, if you want to fire it up with the crank, like that just gets people going, because this is the history of how transportation really brought us to new places across North America and across the world. So that's it for Ridgeline's little shop tour. We'd like to thank everybody who participated in the series this year. We're so excited to see the cars that you bring to the show in person in Toronto, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. Come check us out. We'll see you there.